Lee. I've been at Koho for 3 years. I'm the engineering manager on the payments team. I've done some cool stuff that was just mentioned, but I want to give you a quick introduction of what is Koho. Koho is a B2C application that essentially allows us to compete with the other big banks in Canada. We're a fintech competitor. We have a lot of different offerings, and we really care about the user experience of how people interact with our products, right? We're one of the biggest players in the industry. We're the dominant fintech in Canada, and we have the most users, mostly millions of users, engaging with our platform, transacting every day, loading money in, right? My talk is a little interesting. It's about how one of our vendors had the biggest outage in their company and how kind of Koho solved it. So I really want to preface saying there's no hate between us. There's no animosity between the vendor. We still work. We still offer this product within Koho. We had a great retro. We had great action items. And Koho themselves, we have incidents all the time. So we're just showcasing how we handled it, but we really have a lot of respect for our vendor here as well, right? As any good engineering manager, I can be up here taking all the credit. That's not the case. I had an amazing team that helped me build this out. One of the developers is actually in the audience. His name is Sasha, and he was the lead developer that came up with a lot of the ideas here, and that I'm just reiterating. Then I have my partner in crime, which is Hardeep, who's our product manager, and our UX designer, and they'll all come into play of how we handle this story. So what were we trying to build? We wanted to build the simplest tenant insurance product. Tenant insurance is renter's insurance. And if you've ever purchased renter's insurance in North America, it is the worst experience of your life. You go to some random website, you enter like a bunch of PII, you wait a couple of days, and then someone calls you back, and then you get renter's insurance. It can take about 48 hours, right? What we wanted to do was create a product that was super easy, and in 30 seconds, you can go through the app and just get renter's insurance the same day you open it, right? There's supposed to be a demo here, it's not playing. I'll show it to you later, okay? So super easy product, very simple, and in terms of execution, we knew the integration was gonna be super easy. We had 4 steps, really easy thing to build. We were gonna create like a user entity within Koho that's gonna basically be this insurance user. We were then gonna create a collection, and a collection is an internal service within Koho that manages payments for SaaS products that we build. So you talk to the service, you set up like a cron schedule, it'll go through every month, collect the user's billing, and so on and so forth. So we have to talk to that service to set up that billing cycle. Then we have to talk to our vendor to activate that insurance. And then we publish some events so that people know that, hey, this person has signed up for insurance. Please stop bothering them, marketing team. They're good to go. Get them out of the life cycle, right? The flow was super simple too. You had the mobile app. It just sends the user data. It executes that plan. And then the server says, yeah, you're good to go, all steps worked. Or if it failed, it just throw an error. Like most things that we build, every stand-up, we had a lot of doubts. We always thought, well, what would happen if the create user failed? Oh, it's not big of a deal. Throw an error, we're at the first step, return back, no problems, right? What if like the create collection failed? Still not that bad. We'll just delete that user we created before, go back, right? Activating insurance, okay, it's a little bad. We're gonna have to go back, remove the collection, remove the user, so on and so forth. Publish events, it's not that bad. Maybe the user's getting marketed. We'll have to refill those events later, right? And every stand-up that went by, because we're mid-cycle at this point, we're still building this, we kept thinking about even worse scenarios. Okay, well, what if, like, we did the collection, the user paid, but let's say the insurance failed. So how do we refund the user? What if we're trying to refund that user and that failed, right? So you just spiral and spiral and spiral. And every stand-up, we were thinking of ways of adding very defensive programming to basically make these use cases kind of work better and better. Until one day, we really started talking about the real pain that our users feel. And one of the real pain is, let's say if we took the collection, users would say, hey, Koho stole my money, right? If we didn't activate the insurance product and took their payment, it just seems like they paid for insurance and didn't get anything. And if we fail to publish that event, they're still getting marketed, right? So our new code that we were just writing, this is all greenfield, looks like a ball of yarn. There's so much defensive programming. There's so much happening. It just became a really big burden. and we just wanted to see if there's a better way we could handle this. So one stand-up, Sasha was like, well, why don't we use Temporal? Why don't we try it out? We had another team in the company that was using Temporal for another product. They were also running into very similar issues. And then mid-cycle, because of the solutions they were getting there, we were like, you know what? Let's give it a shot, right? We thought it was gonna be like almost 4 weeks of delay, but you'll soon find out it was quite easy for us to move over, and I'll explain why. The steps that we already created naturally fitted the insurance workflows, right? The red boxes is basically the activities we created, and then this whole thing was a workflow on itself. And I'll dive a little bit deeper. But because we only had 4 simple steps, we were able to create those as activities, and they all run inside of a single workflow. We already took in our vendors' APIs, our internal APIs, and created really nice, clean clients. So we already had the client there. It was good to go. All we had to do was wrap that in our activity. And the way we did that was we called the client method there. You can say create user. And what happens is in the case where there's a validation error, we definitely don't want Temporal to retry. We just want it to fail. So we handle all those different error cases for our internal services and for our vendor. We then, when we're ready to execute that activity, we create the retry policy. And the retry policy is there for every activity or every step in that plan. And this basically gets rid of all the defensive programming, all the exponential backups that we already had. These simple lines of code just basically retries that policy based on the errors handling we were already doing. Then, all the steps are really easy to see. They're all laid out here. Don't worry, we do error handling. This is just just a demo, but everything comes in. You can see all 4 steps that I just talked about, and then that is a simple insurance workflow, right? We thought this was gonna take about 4 weeks. It actually took Sasha about a week to train the developers, and we did this in a couple of hours. It was really easy, right? But then, my partner in crime, Hardeep, was like, well, can we do more? So to make this experience even better, we said, well, what if we just offer users a full refund within 30 days? No questions asked. You go in the app, you press cancel, you get a full refund if you didn't like the product, right? And Sasha was like, damn, how do we do that? So one thing that we thought about doing was, what if we just continue that workflow for 30 days past when people have actually started that insurance plan? So the way this works, and I'm sorry, this is a lot of code to read, but we basically set up a state channel. We set up this variable called a workflow timeout, which is a Boolean. And then for our selectors, we had 2 conditions. The first selector was, once 30 days have lapsed, the workflow ends, right? Because you only have 30 days to get that refund. In the case where someone does get a cancellation, which we fire a signal from a different endpoint, this workflow will then receive that signal. It'll see, hey, I'm still an active running workflow, therefore something must have happened, and we have to now issue a refund and cancel the user's insurance. So that method that says do update state, it's actually gonna give the user their money back. It's also gonna talk to our vendor and cancel the user's insurance plan. At the end there, we're just kind of waiting for the selector to do something if one of those conditions come true. Super simple. Everything is in the workflow. It's really easy to read. It's not in random event handlers. It's not in random API code. It's the same workflow that's doing the steps in there, right? Well, now you have to kind of assume for the worst because we did all this programming, but in many cases, like if there is a negative case, we went down the rabbit hole already, the whole app is not synchronous anymore. In the negative case, it's actually async because that temporal workflow can take up to 20 minutes, right? So we have to redesign not only the backend, we also have to think, where will users go when they hit subscribe? What will happen? So one of the things that our team thought of is, in this very negative case that we've been talking about a lot, let's create another state in the app, right? So what you'll see on the left side is an active insurance policy. When someone signs up for insurance, this is what they'll see. Congratulations, your insurance is active. In the case they sign up for a future date, we'll show them the middle screen. But in the case where things are failing miserably and the backend is just retrying all those activities, we created a new screen. It's called a pending screen. Remember, the insurance experience in North America is already terrible. It takes 48 hours. So in the case where people are we're retrying those backend APIs, we're just gonna tell the user, hey, we're on it. We'll build this for you. Don't worry about it, right? The dashboard also changes. The left-hand side is a scheduled insurance happening in the future. The middle is an active insurance policy. But in the case, again, everything is failing, they get a dashboard saying, hey, come back in X amount of time. And the time we decided was 30 minutes, right? Because I think our retries end in 20 minutes. We're just like, something has to happen, you gotta come back. And this is only in the error case, and this is only in the case where those activities are retrying and the workflow is just kind of waiting for something to happen, right? So we accounted not only on our back end, but also on our front end. The user experience is seeing a great view. And the way we did this was kind of interesting. When it comes to back end and front end communication in our team, we're always like, what can we do to basically reduce the logic in our front end? Because we're a mobile app company, if we have to change our front end, we don't have the luxury of just deploying new code. We have to wait for an app cycle review. So it takes about a day. So we try to reduce as much complexity as we can, even simple things like polling. So Sasha had, I think, a genius idea that I just really want to highlight, which is we create a query handler in the workflow that just returns the current state, pending, success, failed, right? In the case when we actually hit that endpoint to create the insurance plan, what we'll do is we'll wait. We only have a timeout about 30 seconds, so in 29 seconds we'll see, is this workflow taking that long? If it is, we'll just return pending back to the front end, and then the front end just shows the pending state. But in most cases, it takes about a second. You get insured about 1 second. So in most cases, this runs through, and it's just a regular REST API call. In the case where it's a longer REST API call, there's no polling on the front end. It's just hitting an endpoint. It's waiting for the endpoint response. The backend is furiously trying to see what the status is, and then we just get the status back. Right? Just reduce that complexity on the front end, add the polling on the back end. So we did all this work. We changed the UIs. We went down the rabbit hole. Was it even worth it? Because we didn't know what was going to happen. We just did this because based on the worst experience. And Koho really, really does care about user experience. We want to build the best experience, and if people are buying insurance products for us, we're trying to build trust. We want people to come in. We don't want them to get screwed, right? So we're all getting ready. I'm moving on to different projects. Sasha's moving on to different projects, and some of the remaining team is just building the rest of the flows, and we're getting ready to go to market. That day is August 22nd, 2024. This is when we launch our comms to all of our users. There's actually a little kickback in this product where if you buy tenant insurance within Koho, and if you're a rent reporting user, which is a product that helps you build credit, we will actually give you cash back on your rent, which is the first of its kind in Canada. So it was a very enticing product. A lot of people wanted this. And this is the same day we're sending literally emails, notification blasts to millions of users. And any good launch day, everything broke. Right? You can see I'm getting paged all over the place. I'm now trying to talk to my go-to-market team telling, we gotta stop the comms. Something has gone horribly wrong. We're trying to figure out what's happening. The chart on the left is actually my active heart rate, not a latency monitor. It's just through the roof. I have no idea what's happening. And I create an incident channel. I get Sasha on the line. I'm like, hey, we need to figure out what's happening. This is launch day. We gotta get this under control. And the first thing Sasha says to me is, this is literally amazing. And in my head, I'm like, I failed as a manager. I don't know what's going on. He's not doing the incident management response. What's going on? And I think my Slack message will show you the best thing that happened. All that work we did was amazing because our vendor was down, and the activities that we created, it was just kind of waiting. You can see this is a user that entered 8 minutes into the outage. And that one activity, which is the create walnut activity, that is just kind of retrying. Their API was failing, throwing 500, so we just kept retrying, right? The users on the front end were seeing a pending screen. They're saying, hey, come back in 30 minutes. They were like, okay, I guess this is my experience. I've always waited for an insurance product. I'll just wait. And because of that, when the outage cleared, it just kind of moved on to the next step. We literally had no support chats. People were just purchasing insurance, right? We didn't make any updates to our code. We didn't make any code changes. We just sat there in the incident channel laughing at how great this was. We didn't have to do anything. It was kind of one of the best experiences at Koho and one of the best experiences of managing an incident in my career. Like we really thought about not only how the backend will work, but also the front end, which is the most important part. That's how users are interacting with our app, right? There was a lot of interesting lessons we also learned from this. Version workflows are very hard. I had some internal logic. I actually moved to a different team after this to work on the rent reporting side. They did a very long-running workflow to the entire duration of the rent reporting subscription. And as business logic changed, it was really hard to migrate those old running workflows on new patch workflows. So we're still trying to figure this out. We even had some issues like that in tenant insurance, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that happened in this replay conference that we'll take away and hopefully get that better. The other thing, trying to explain a pending state to product managers and UX designers is very difficult because usually at Koho, we have very simple operations where we hit a vendor and we get some data back. It's mostly synchronous, right? We're basically creating a state that is explaining a negative backend experience, a negative experience in terms of like what's happening. So explaining that to your product manager who's like, why do you need this? It doesn't make sense. It can get very difficult, but the payoff is definitely well worth it. Yeah? And thank you so much for attending. That's it. I'll also bring up Sasha because he was actually one of the core people for any Q&A as well here. Okay?
All right, if anybody has questions, just raise your hand. I'll bring the mic to you. Okay. Excuse me.
Great talk, really enjoyed it, thank you. You mentioned in a couple of places that you'd set either like a maximum number of retries or a maximum retry duration. It looks like the kind of duration of the incident resolved itself before you hit those maximum retry amounts. Would it have been a different story if you'd kind of gone beyond the timeouts?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think the incident only lasted like 18 minutes, and I think our duration was 20, so it would have been I don't think I'd be up here if it was like longer than 20 minutes, I'll be honest with you. We did talk about that and coming back and changing those times as well.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately we did kind of bake in the refunding. So if we did hit where the workflow kind of reached that maximum retry, there's still kind of a backstop to say, okay, well, we got to give them their money back at minimum, even if it kind of leads to kind of poor comms or a user that is still marked as active in the database, but we kind of really want to take the money aspect the most seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other questions?
Well.
Okay. Excuse me.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the talk. Piggybacking off of the last question, how has your team or maybe even your engineering organization's kind of strategy for monitoring changed, you know, as a result of Temporal? It looks like a lot of the pages that you were getting were a false positive in this case.
Yeah, like it's interesting. I think our monitoring strategy has mostly remained the same. We still want to know when things are on fire. But one thing that has changed is the way we build products with Temporal. Like, that has fundamentally changed in our org, especially with this use case. Now, negative use cases are designed in the product experience first most versus at the end most, like a mid-cycle like we did. We still want to know when things are down, just so we can prepare correctly. That's totally fine with us. But yeah, like product fundamental changes have happened within Koho over here.
Okay, see a hand over here.
So one thing I'm wondering is for retry policies that you've set up, as you've kind of rolled out more use cases in your org, what kind of intuitions or learnings have you had about like how you've decided on how much time to give activities and that sort of thing?
I'll let you take that away.
I think it was a little bit of guesswork. Something like our database, we kind of had a lot more confidence in, so we were willing to do shorter intervals and kind of keep the retry shorter. Something like the vendor, we ended up actually updating it to have longer intervals and a longer total time. So it was really kind of a guesstimation at first, and then kind of reviewing how it performed and going back. So I think we kind of didn't really see any issues with our databases yet, so we haven't really changed those policies as of now. But as far as the vendor, we've kind of had another hiccup in the future, and we kind of updated policies to just try a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Okay. I'm getting a workout here today.
So you mentioned that you had like a 30-day running workflow for the cancellation case. What made you choose to have like a long-running workflow versus a more traditional approach where if the user cancels, you just check the date that they signed up?
I have a bad answer for this, but I think it was like we were just running out of time. We were just like, we need to launch this thing. And I think that pressure from myself was definitely put on the pressure on the dev team. So I'm really curious like what your response is.
Yeah, I think like really we wanted to leverage Temporal for the money movements. And so if we ever had a case where a user canceled and we needed to process that refund, we did want it packaged into Temporal. And I think we kind of just had a workflow and decided to add to it rather than create another workflow that would do a refund. But I think kind of in the future, I would go down the route of having the shorter workflow create the subscription and then having a refund workflow that can be initiated from an event handler that got the cancel signal.
Yeah.
So I think it was mostly we had a workflow and we just kept adding to it, and we maybe learned a little lesson from that.
Yeah, every time we've used it, we've learned lessons in so many different ways. Because remember, this is the second use case. The first one was the rent reporting product. And if we had to build that today, we would build it very differently than we did at that time as well. So we're just learning by, I guess, trial by fire. It's the best learning ever.
That's Ali's management style.
Any other questions? Okay.
So if the workflow actually eventually timed out, as you said,
Yeah.
What's your rollback scenario there? Do you then go back to your original approach where you're, reversing all of the activities?
In what case, sorry?
So you said for the onboarding process, for example, and then you make a policy and, go through the entire process. If it timed out, you said you had like a limit and then the workflow would fail, or maybe I misinterpreted.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we reach the kind of, if we exhaust the retry policy on the activity, we kind of already have the rollback logic for the cancel case. So we could leverage that. And really, it was kind of just refund the money, mostly. Everything else, we would be able to restart the workflow. And each activity is kind of baked in, if this user already exists, then I don't need to add anything else to the database. And if the user already exists at the vendor, then I don't need to do anything. So it's mostly just, can you give this user their money back in that error case? And then we clean up after that.
Yeah. A lot of the, there's a lot of other source code. Like there was a use case for Temporal for schedule dates. Because the vendor didn't support this feature, we actually had to build that internally. So like, I didn't show that part. I don't know if that was interesting, but it's basically like if someone picks an insurance date in the future, the vendor only had the ability to do active, inactive, but we would actually call that endpoint when that date actually happens, and that was through a selector as well. I didn't show that source code, but yeah.
Any other questions? All right.
Great talk. I just want to ask about after the outage, did you flood the vendor? And did you specify some throttling on when you went back online, or?
Did we flog the vendor?
No, I mean the biggest thing for us is like Koho is not immune to outages. We have outages all the time, and these were two startups working together. So I think like in this case, we were super humble. We totally understood where they came from. It happens time to time. We did retro it and it worked out pretty well. So, and remember, we still sell this product today. This vendor is still on that front page. We're really proud of that partnership still.
I think you meant, did you throttle?
Oh, throttle?
Load.
No, because
No, it was. I think like after kind of discussing it with them, the issue on their end was related to their database. It wasn't necessarily an API issue. But what came out of that was kind of like a joint incident plan that we have 24-hour contact, and if anything like this happens again, we can escalate very quickly. So kind of smoothed over the entire incident management process just by having this experience.
yeah.
Okay. Any others? All right, seeing none, well, thank you very much to Koho for such a great presentation.